Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. Once again, a Tim May podcast brought to you live and direct by LettermenRow.com. Actually, it's not live at all. We're recording this on a tranquil, beautiful Monday afternoon here in otherwise social distancing Columbus, Ohio. But I've got I wouldn't miss this podcast for the world. I wanted to have this man on through the middle of the season last year when J.K. Dobbins was stomping down on both his previous record and Eddie George's record of rushing yardage in a season at Ohio State University. And, of course, you all know who that kind of zeroes in on who I'm talking about right from the get-go. But one of the newest elected members of the College Football Hall of Fame, Keith Byars, live and direct from Dayton. Keith, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing wonderful, Tim. Good to be here with you on your podcast.
Oh, man, every time I have you on, I have to start. Every time I'm around you, I start smiling because 1984 was the first year I covered Ohio State football as the head beat writer, number one, number two. And as I've already always told folks, I watched the most dominant first 8 games at least by a running back of any running back I'd ever seen. You got to remember, I grew up. Earl Campbell played against my high school in Texas. I saw Billy Sims play in high school, et cetera. But Keith, that 1984 season, man, the reason we're talking about you being in the Hall of Fame has a hell of a lot to do with that season and that season in general and that Illinois game in particular. Do you agree?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that was just, special times. And I think about it all the time. I wouldn't say I think about it every day, but certainly every week. It crosses my mind and, and it's special. And, when I got elected into the College Football Hall of Fame, I was on cloud nine, still on cloud nine, and very, a thrill of a lifetime, and certainly one of the greatest honors I've ever had bestowed upon myself.
How did they let you know, real quick? Everybody has I got a phone call or whatever. Obviously it was probably a phone call, right? How did you learn that you had been elected?
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, this year was a little different in years gone by. At least the last 5 or 6, 7, 8 years, they've been announcing it at the college football playoffs, the week of, the championship game. Because, the semifinals come out in June, and then you got to wait another 6 or 7 months, 8 months, before the finals come out. And this past year, I guess they were celebrating 150 years of college football, so they didn't announce it during the college football, championships, because I thought it would have been nice. Ohio State was one of the 4 teams, and I didn't hear anything. And so I thought, okay, I've been a finalist for, I think, the last 5 or 6 or 7 years. And I forgot about it. So early March, mid-March, I out running errands, and I come home, and my wife is standing in the kitchen, and it was a box on the counter. I said, I thinking she done bought something off Amazon. I said, what'd you buy? She said, oh, no, that's not for me, it's for you. I said, what is it? She said, I don't know. And I thought, I get fan mail to my house, and, people want me to autograph different things. And I thought it was, fan mail. I picked it, and I was about to, set it down. I'm like, I don't just open it up. I don't know who it was from. And I saw it was a football. And I'm like, oh, somebody's autographed football. Somebody wants me to autograph a football. And I started looking for the Sharpie they usually put inside. And there was no Sharpie, it was a letter. Oh, okay. I read the letter, and I was like, wait a minute, this not. And it was like, congratulations, you're inducted into the, 2020, College Football Hall of Fame. And I like, wow. A little tear came in, my eye. I was overwhelmed. My wife said, what's wrong? I'm like, I just got inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame. She started screaming. I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Wow.
And, I picked up the phone and, called my kids right away. And, the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, the rest is history being made. It's kind of almost a year-long celebration, too. They take you guys in induction, and, I'm sure we're going to, we'll see you recognized at an Ohio State game this year. Hey, if there is an Ohio State game this year.
We may have to postpone that another year. And if that happens, hey, I'm okay with that. I'll wait till, the fall of 21. Dude,
I will remind them. Let me tell you, man. I'm telling you. But, Keith, I want to get into this with you, man, because I'm not BSing. I mean, your first 8 games before you suffered that, was it? I think it was either an ankle or a high ankle sprain.
A high ankle sprain, yeah.
Yeah, against Wisconsin on the last play from scrimmage. You remember y'all's last play? Or you might have suffered earlier game, but that's where it manifested itself.
Yeah, exactly. That cold, rainy, hard turf for Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah, and they won that game. You know that team, y'all's team, '84. I don't know if you know this, but back in the old days when they decided the champion in the regular season didn't have a playoff, as you well know. Y'all are still the only team in Big Ten history to win the Big Ten championship outright with 2 losses in the season on your record, Purdue and then Wisconsin. And of course, a lot of people wrote you guys off after that Wisconsin game, with 2 losses. But it was one of the strange seasons ever. But I keep telling everybody, y'all played Northwestern and Indiana the next 2 weeks before you finished with Michigan in the regular season, and you would have had 200 yards by halftime in those 2 games, because that was back when Indiana and Northwestern were Indiana and Northwestern, right?
They really were, right. I mean, I just hobbled out there for those 2 games. I should have not even been playing, those 2 games. But remember, we also didn't have a bye week.
Right.
And people forget that. We played 11 straight games, so it was no time, to recover. You just had to, pile up and go at it again. I mean, and you go back to that Illinois game for a second. I carried about 39 times. The following week we played Michigan State. I carried about 40 times.
Yeah. Because, what the hell?
That's a lot of yeoman's work of having to go out there and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That was I had a famous, in my opinion, a famous lead on my story the day after the Michigan State game. I said, it wasn't so much like you guys dodged a bullet as the bullet dodged you. Because remember the guy missed a field goal at the end of the game. I think it was Moshinko or whatever. And as Mike Lenee said, when you guys are playing in the Rose Bowl in 3 months, nobody's going to remember how y'all won that game. They're just going to remember you did win it.
Exactly. That's the bottom line. You just win it. I mean, just a quick, sidebar. Michigan State and Ohio State, you look at their history, they always play Ohio State tough. I mean, you get a few outliers like the last couple of years with Ohio State and Michigan State. But those games, you go back to Archie Griffin, his 4 years of playing Michigan State, those was always dogfights.
Yeah.
No matter, from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, you don't really find, very many 3 or 4 year stints where Ohio State blows out Michigan State. They may beat them, but there's going to be dogfight games.
That's because, Michigan State has almost always has hung their hat on great defense, if they can do it. As I call it, hard hitting. As I like to say, they used to hit you between the shoulder pads and the knees. You know what I mean? And
yes,
yeah, and I know you know that better than anybody. And and if you want to make Archie mad, just bring up the name Levi Jackson. Watch his face. Go red on you. But I want to get into this. So as I've told everybody, you went on to finish second in the Heisman Trophy that year to Doug Flutie. And let's face, when Doug Flutie. That was no fluke. I mean, number one, he had the Hail Mary, but number two, when he left, I think he was the most prolific passing quarterback in major college history at that point from a passing yardage standpoint. But like I said, if you'd have had those games against Northwestern and in Indiana and then backed up with that win over Michigan, I still see you diving over the goal line for a touchdown with that big wrap on your leg,
Oh, yeah.
just gutting it out. But you would have won. I wonder, how many times you've thought about how you might have won the Heisman going away,
Yeah, but I still think, even everything you said, I still should have won the Heisman Trophy. I mean, because you're talking with Doug Flutie, you're talking about his career. It's not a career award. It's a season award.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're talking about a season as opposed to a career. And remember, he played at Boston College. And it's not like I'm, crapping on Doug Flutie. I don't want to come off sounding that way. Yeah. But I'm just saying, apples to apples, I had a better season. I didn't play an independent, they played a Miami team that were down that year. They weren't in a conference, and they didn't, you put those numbers up in the Big Ten and playing the competition that we had to play week in, week out. And then my season was over when he threw the Hail Mary. That was Thanksgiving weekend. I remember at that time, Ohio State-Michigan game was before Thanksgiving. So my 11 games are already in the can. And that was Friday. After Thanksgiving, everybody's sitting around watching television, and they see the Hail Mary pass, and that's the last thing they remember.
Yeah.
I had no answer because my season was already complete, and I had enough of my body work. I still put it up against his body work. And
dude, you said I think that the 1,764 yards you ended up with rushing that year was then I think the season record for college football.
It was Ohio State season record.
Exactly. And so I mean, you were
I led the nation in rushing, led the nation in all rush purpose yards, led the nation in touchdowns.
Yeah. Well, hey, but what have you done for me lately?
What have you done for me lately?
Hey, but here's the thing,
one more game.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that the problem with you was the one shoe run had come in the middle of the season in the most incredible comeback, in my opinion, in Ohio State history. I know they may have come back from further down at Minnesota later on in like 89 or 90, wherever that game was, but y'all were down 24-0, and you proceeded
to defend the Big Ten champs. Illinois were really good at that time. They weren't no Sisters of the Poor. They were good. They were good.
As I wrote in my game story, I said, you had 271 yards and 4 touchdowns with 1 carry to go, and after that, those 3 yards you kept for the 5th touchdown in that game was easy.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the most incredible.
That's probably the easiest touchdown I scored. You're right.
Yeah, exactly, man. Left in, man. Remember, like it was 5 minutes. But just
go back to one more thing on the Heisman, then I'll get off it.
Yeah.
A quarterback hadn't won the award since Jim Plunkett. So that was like a 13-year run with 14 years of all running backs in one specialty, Johnny Rodgers.
Right.
So it was also, let's give it to a quarterback.
Yeah.
And Byars got another year, he can get it the following year. But no, I want to be like my idol. I want to win 2 like Archie won 2.
Well, I mean,
so no quarterback. So it was all a running back an award at that time, and so why not leave it that way? It was not like you're doing me a favor. I earned it, and so every time I see Doug Flutie, I always remind him, "You keep my trophy clean." So he laughs about it, but I'm serious.
This is what's funny. This is not funny, but Eddie won it, in '95, and he had, of course, his consummate game was that game against Illinois when he. Broke your single game record. I think
327 yards or something.
Yeah,
like that.
No, 309 or something like that. Anyway, but he ended up with 1,900 and something yards rushing for the whole year, including the bowl game. But the thing about it was, everybody remembered that game and the Notre Dame game, and you guys beat Michigan your year. Yeah. They got beat by Michigan. He didn't. I think he was the first game he was held under 100 yards, but he still won the Heisman because his hay was in the barn, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Right,
right. It just shows you there's no cut and dried way people look at voting for the Heisman Trophy. It's like, if you just put something indelible in their minds, that's what they remember. But, the Doug Flutie, the Hail Mary, that was ridiculous, and you know how people are knee-jerk reactionaries.
Sure, yeah. But I don't watch the Heisman Trophy ceremony anymore. That was the last year I've watched the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I was at the Heisman Trophy ceremony,
right.
Sitting next to Doug when they go back and look at the video. I'm the last person to get out of my chair, and I had the only thing I could muster up was the golf clap. Yeah. But I don't watch it anymore.
Wow.
I haven't watched it since 1984, and so when Eddie won the Heisman Trophy, I had to hear about it. When Troy Smith won the Heisman Trophy, I had to hear. But I heard about it, a few hours later, or maybe an hour or so later. But I just don't watch. I'm not in my television watching to see who won.
Yeah.
Because I'm still stung. I'm still hurt by it. I'm trying to get over it.
Wow. Yeah.
But I don't watch
it. Take a couple of leave,
yes.
like that. But hey, real quick though, put people in your mind. You're sitting there. You got to be sweating a little bit. You're thinking. You're nervous. You're thinking about how you're going to thank Earl Bruce and Steve Snap and all these other people. You know what I mean? If your name gets called, what is that moment like when your name doesn't get called? For people who haven't experienced that, because it's really an honor to even be there. To a certain extent. Go ahead.
It is. That was my first time ever going to New York City. Wow. And back in those days, they only flew you in, so my parents weren't there. There wasn't no big hoopla. I was there all by myself. Me and a reporter from my hometown was there. but I was basically on my own. And so it was a great weekend. Stayed at the Downtown Athletic Club. You know, I had a butler for the first time in my life, first and only time in my life. Never, like I had many experiences with a butler. That was the only time in my life I've had a butler.
Wow.
A 24-hour limousine. So
Wow.
it was awesome. It was a great experience. You know, I don't know. Where am I going in a limousine? Nowhere.
Yeah.
Let's go to Macy's. Go to
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me walk around Macy's.
Take me to the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, exactly. I had a great tour of New York.
Yeah.
But to sit in that room and your heart is beating, you know, I'm not going to say it was my childhood dream to win the Heisman Trophy because I wouldn't even think about it when I was, you know, 7 or 8, 9 years old. But once I was in high school, I wanted to win the Heisman Trophy one day, you know, because I saw Archie Griffin win 2 of them. You know, I'm old enough to remember that. And then when I got to meet Archie during the recruiting process and got to know him over my years at Ohio State, you know, I made it a goal once I got to Ohio State. You know, once I chose to go to Ohio State, not only do I want to be an All-American here, but I also want to win 2 Heisman Trophies like my idol, Archie Griffin, won 2. So I know it's possible. And it's only possible at this university because it's only a university that ever produced 2 Heisman Trophy winners of the same person. So that was my goal at Ohio State. And, you know, I didn't start as a freshman, had a really good sophomore year. Then I was like, okay, now my junior year, it could happen. It could happen. And so I had all my ducks in a row. And I thought, and even to this day, my resume was good enough to win a Heisman Trophy, you know, as a junior. So you can't win 2 until you win 1. And so I thought everything was working in order. So I'm sitting in that chair. All those things are going through my mind, you know, that, I know the Hail Mary pass had already happened. But everybody, Doug Flutier's going to win. But I'm like, I just still believe I can win this thing. I still think I can do it. And so until the moment of truth when they said Doug Flutie, not Keith Byars, it didn't happen. You know, so I was still going to be classy and stand up and, you know, clap and everything else. But I was hurt. I was hurt. It was like, and then it's just like everything's about Doug, Bernie Kosar, Keith Byars, stage right. Y'all going somewhere. You're done. You don't tie your flight lead tomorrow, right? Okay, good.
Butler, he's off duty.
He's off duty now.
Hey, real quick though, before I move on to another thing though that, you know, is really key here. Just in a nutshell, was there something different from the middle of the first or the middle of the second quarter on that you felt in that? I've never asked you this. In that Illinois game, did you feel something sort of come over you? What as you look back on it now, it'd be easy to say, oh, yeah, you know, somebody I got the touch or whatever. But what do you remember that, you know, to this day, do you kind of get goosebumps about how that game just opened up in front of you?
Well, it was, you know, not to make anything up because I can still remember, you know, that.
Yeah.
The only thing that came to my mind was Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong went wrong. Because I had a fumble in the first quarter with nobody touching me. I'm running around the end, and the football probably should have had it tucked high and tight, but I had a tendency, you know, to carry the ball loose, and I bounced the pad. And then boom, 2 plays later, touchdown. I'm like, man, these guys aren't beating us. We're beating ourselves. Yeah. They're a good football team. Why are we, you know, doing this? And so when I fumbled the ball, I was like, man, this is one of them days. Anything that can go wrong went wrong. Can go wrong. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. But also the opposite of true. We got time to turn this thing around. They're playing well. We're playing bad. Are we going to do this for 60 minutes? I don't think so. All we need is one good thing to happen, and then we can turn this thing around. That's what I was saying to myself. And I put it on myself. You make the good thing happen. You made bad things happen by fumbling the ball, leading to a touchdown. You know, it was just Mike Tomczak throws the interception on a quick slant. You get the credit, the defensive back for Illinois made a great dive pass, right? He jumped in front of Chris Carter, bam, but like a hitch. Another touchdown. So anything that we did wrong, they was capitalizing, not on field goals, touchdowns. Yeah. So he's like, it's just matter of time, guys. You know, so when I finally scored the first touchdown, you know, it made it 24-7. That's when I came to the national, you know, to the television camera and said, we're coming back. I felt that. I felt it and I believed it, and it got to be contagious. just like in the first quarter, the contagion, everything that was bad happening for us, that got to be contagious. So now something good happened for us, that got to be contagious. And then, oh, okay. You know, I said what everybody else kind of believed. I just said it out loud, and everybody fed off that energy. And then next thing you know, oh, no, there's a fumble. You know, now they fumbling the football. You know, Sonny Gordon, you know, on kickoff team. And then next thing you know, we're back in this thing.
Yeah.
What was the halftime score? Like 24-21 or something like that?
Yeah. It was a hell of a second quarter. Yeah.
Yes. They won the first quarter. We won the second quarter. Now let's go battle this second half. And it was a battle.
Yeah. It's just amazing to me, you know, when I think back to it, because, you know, the run without the shoe, I mean, you know, guys become legends for whatever, you know, for all kinds of reasons. But the run without the shoe, in the shoe.
That's apropos, right?
You can't make that crap up, right?
No, you can't. You really can't. And I mean, and that's something that would be with me forever. And at the time, and that October Saturday in 1984, I'm not thinking about, you know, history. I'm thinking about today. Let's win this game today. I didn't plan my shoe coming off. And I still to this day, it wasn't untied. It was fully strung up. I don't know why my shoe came off. Yeah. You know, I just made that cut, and I was like, "What? This don't feel right. Kick it!" So I kicked it off, and I could hear Earl Bruce's ear, you know, in my ear. Turn on the high test. You know, when you turn the high test on, and I just, you know, shifted into another gear.
Yeah, I know. That was one of my favorite lines from you. One time I was interviewing you, and I said, "You know, do you know how fast you are actually running when you run? Because, you know, I'm not sure your 40 time blew people away, but your big line was something. I'm as fast as I have to be, you know, and that was a great example, that one play. But I'm telling you, you know.
But see, Tim, you're talking about my 40 time. You know, the best way to describe my 40 time was deceptive. I was deceptively fast. Earl Bruce said one time, "Have you ever seen anybody catching?" Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I never got ran down.
Exactly.
And so when on my pro day going into my senior year, I ran 340s that day, you know, in the spring for the pros. You know, they would come out and, you know, and time us. I ran 340s. The first 40 I ran was a 4.55. The next 40 I ran was a 4.43, and then the last 40 was a 4.5 flat.
Wow. Yeah.
So they were like, "You ran 4.4?" I'm like, "Yeah." I ran a 40. So they look at each other like, "What do you have him for?" Like, "That's what I got." Like, even the pro scouts were surprised how fast I was, because on film, you know, my little short, choppy steps don't look like I'm moving fast until you try to catch me.
Exactly. Well, I had who did I have on last week? Von Brodnack's on last year, and I brought up your running style because we were talking about Master Teague and the way he was kind of coming on a little bit. And I said, the great thing about the way you ran was your feet were hardly ever more than a couple of inches, it looked like, off the ground, so you could make a cut in an instant. You know what I mean? It was the coolest way to watch. But I would tell you something else, Keith. The thing that stood out to me about those, like I said, the first 8 games, because the high ankle sprain, you gutted it out, and you still had great games the last 3 games of the regular season. But those first 8, I had a stat I ran up one time, and it was something like 48 or 50% of the plays. You weren't tackled. You were either stopped, you know, after about 3 or 4 guys got you, or you were forced out of bounds. And it was, did you feel like at times that year sort of like a little bit of a Superman? I mean, like you were back in high school. What was that feeling like?
Well, you know, I think I saw a video early, you know, when I was younger, of Walter Payton talk about never die, you know, die hard, never die easy. And that meant one-on-one, you're supposed to win. You know, you don't get tackled one-on-one. He can hang on to help arise, but I always took the individual battles. Like, there's no one person can tackle me. You may hang on, but, you know, I'm supposed to win.
Yeah.
you know, to help arise. It's going to take 2 or 3 of you guys to get me down. One guy is not getting me down. And when I was in high school, one of my rival high schools, me and this guy, we got in an argument. He was like, saying, "I'm going to solo tackle you when we play you guys in the 2 weeks." And, you know, it was like a friendly nature. I was like, "Well, you're going to buy me pizza." You know, we submitted this local pizza joint after the game. So on Friday nights, a lot of high schools, we would come and, we would sit in sections. And so, like, my high school against, but it was not a game. It was just, just good, friendly, high school kids. And I said, you're buying pizza. You're going to buy us a whole pizza if you solo tackle me, and I'll buy you a pizza if you tackle me. And needless to say, he had to buy me pizza in the cup when we played after that Friday night. But it was offsides. It was offsides penalty. And he grabbed me by the ankle, and the referees were blowing the whistle. And he was like, this count. I'm like, man, you don't let me go. No, I mean, I tackled you. I'm like, I let you tackle me. It was offsides. That don't count. But I always took those individual battles, I'm supposed to win. And I carried that on from high school, college, and professional. I'm like, I'm not supposed to let you get me down. Yeah. So what you're talking about at college, I really was that way. It was like big man ball. You're supposed to win. One-on-one, I'm supposed to win.
By the way, what kind of pizza? What did Keith Byars? What kind of pizza did Keith Byars?
The same one I like today, sausage and pepperoni.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Sausage and pepperoni, please, Pepe. Hey, real quick, I don't want to jump to bad memories, but I want to keep this going a little bit. Man, Earl Bruce has got all these plans for you in '85. I mean, you're going to be the Cadillac. You're going to be the motorboat. You're going to be, Chris. You may have more catches than Chris Carter based on what you guys were going to try to do on offense.
Oh yeah.
And stuff. And Pop goes to metatarsal. You were favored to win the Heisman Trophy, etc. Speaking of the disappointment you felt about the Heisman the year before, just have you ever gotten over that 85 season? Keith?
I was. I guess so. I've gotten over it from the standpoint where I don't have any regrets when I look in the mirror. When I think of '85, a freak injury. It happened in practice, and I just make just a normal cut I make every day of the week in practice. And when I go over to the trainer, Billy Hill, and Billy, this ain't right. I heard something. I felt something. And they're like, well, that's good, because he knows I don't complain. He knew that I never complained about injuries. And going to Riverside Hospital, and they said, it's broken. And I think it had to be a misdiagnosis because they was like, you're going to be back in 2 weeks. It's not that bad. And 2 weeks went to 3 weeks to 4 weeks to, basically the whole season, was a wash. And, if I had to do it all over again with our red shirt, no, I wouldn't have red shirted. I probably would have done with the information that I had available to me at the time, I would have made the same decision, to go ahead and play. And because I was going to come back for a fifth year to try to win the Heisman. No. So I really don't have any regrets.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
I just wish I could have played those games. I regret, that injuries are part of the game. If I'd have done something stupid and got injured, then I would regret that. But no.
Yeah, that's why I remember the game at Colorado that year. I walked by. The game was at Colorado, and I walked by, and you were sitting in the coach's box there. You were going to watch a game from. Remember that, the press box, and I knocked on the door and just said hi to you. And it was that, because I know how much you wanted to play. Number one, and number two, I keep remembering the trivia question. You look at remember you guys played BYU in the Citrus Bowl that year, in that old Citrus Bowl stadium.
Sure,
remember that? That game had Keith Byars. You were on the Ohio State team. Had Chris Carter, had Jim Carsados. They had Robbie Bosco, and I can't remember who their fleet of receivers were. And the only touchdown was scored by Larry Kolick.
The interception return, right?
Was that crazy or what?
Wow, you're right. That was the only touchdown. You're correct.
Let's jump into this, though, man. You invited me over. You tacitly let me come over and sit in your basement with you guys, your family, on draft day of 1986. And I'm sitting there, and y'all had that big TV down in the basement. Remember?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that was a well-used basement, because I tell everybody the carpet on the stairs was worn out right in the middle. Everybody'd been stepping up and down, right?
Yeah, I mean, sure, that was my bedroom, was just off there, because the time with it was like, oh, y'all got to get out. Y'all outgrowing your little bedroom. Y'all sleep in the basement.
Yeah.
So my bedroom was in the basement.
That's right. But I'll never forget, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Philadelphia Eagles called you, the phone rang, and I swear, the way I've told the story, the Eagles called you, and they said they were thinking about taking you with that next pick in the first round, but would you be willing to get a pin put into your broken bone,
Correct,
in your foot? And I think you told them no at that point.
I did.
And
I did.
Yeah, so I got that right?
Yeah, but it was they called at about fourth or fifth pick.
Yeah,
at that time. It was a little earlier than that, and they was like, if you're still there at 10, we want to draft you, but only if you're submit to having another operation, and we want to insert a pin to make sure you don't have any other problems with your foot. And I told them no. And if you remember, my father was like, he was still living at the time. My father looked at me like, are you kidding me? Like, why would you tell him that? My mother was like, why would you tell him? I'm like, Dad.
That's right.
I trusted, my father was a minister. We were both Christian. I was like, Dad, the Lord said I'm not going to need any more surgeries on this foot. I'm doing the right thing. It's going to be fine. So there's no reason to insert the screw because screws break. And I don't, it's going to be fine. And my father, that's what I knew I was in the manhood because my father deferred and like, I'm going to trust you. This is your life. And I'm trusting you're going to make the right decision.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And at that time, the Eagles chose 10th. Everybody had me projected to go 9 to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
On a quick sidebar, I always hated the Steelers. I didn't ever want to go there anyway. And that was my father's team, my family's team, the Byars family are all over Pittsburgh. So they was like, all these years you've been hating the Steelers, now you're coming to us. I was like, oh. So I thought the Steelers was going to draft me anyway if I was still there at the 9th pick instead of the Eagles were picking 10. And so I didn't think the Eagles were going to have, so I probably won't be there when the Eagles pick anyway. And of the 28 teams in the NFL at the time, I had visited 21. The Eagles was one of the 7 teams I didn't visit. So I was like, I never even met Buddy Ryan. I was like, I don't want to play for Buddy Ryan. That's a madman in Chicago. I don't want to play for him. He called me a medical reject a couple of days ago. So I didn't want to play. It's like, why does he call me a medical reject? The Eagles doctors didn't even see me. So when I'm talking to the Eagles now, I'm like, no, I'm not. You're not going to operate on me anymore. No, I'm not going to need it.
Yeah, but then they pick you
right away.
It just shows you smoke screen. Everybody runs in the draft, right? I mean, they say one thing and mean another. The funny thing is, the Lord tells you need more operations, but obviously you got some. So you ever talked to the Lord about that?
Well, no, on that foot.
Yeah.
On that foot, no. I've never. That foot has never given me any problems.
That's right. The other foot, though, you did.
I broke the other foot.
Yeah.
And I had the same exact surgery on the other foot. No problems.
Wow. No
problem. So the answer was in Columbus, Georgia.
Yeah.
Not Columbus, Ohio.
There you go, bro. There you go.
That's why I had the answer. The Lord was right. I know no more. Not there.
The Lord was right. Yeah.
He was.
We'll give that one to him. But Keith, we could go on for like 14 hours. I know you wouldn't want to, but I want to speed this up. I've always told people, everybody talks about the hybrid back now,
Correct.
You in essence forced teams to play you as a hybrid back. I mean, if you follow in my opinion, you were the first.
What are you talking about once I got in the NFL?
Yeah, once you got to the NFL, you kind of revolutionized, kind of like what Mike Vrabel did, with the Patriots when they figured out where to play him. He could do all these other different kind of things. You had more receiving yards than you did rushing yards, right, in the NFL by far. I mean,
correct.
Do you feel like you sort of changed the NFL a little bit, or at least football?
Well, I was ahead of my time. And I credit Buddy Ryan, for that, because you're talking about the 2 foot injuries that I had my senior year in college, and then after my rookie year in the NFL. So my first 2 years in the NFL, I had no training camp. I just went straight to the first game of the season when I got clearance. Yeah. And it wasn't until after my second season in the NFL, that was my first season without rehab. And so during this time of the year, and we're back in Buddy Ryan days, we started in Philadelphia. We started all season workouts in late February, early March.
Wow.
And so during those times, I was proven to, during those workouts on off season, I would work out with the wide receivers. because how much can a running back do during that time other than run through some bag drills and stuff like that? So I was working out with Mike Quick and Chris Carter and those guys running the same exact routes that they were working on with Randall Cunningham.
Yeah.
And so Buddy Ryan was like, man, geez, that man, he's just as smooth as those guys. Yeah. And then we draft Keith Jackson that spring, in '88. And then Buddy Ryan had epiphany, like, because I was like, I've always learned, make yourself valuable. And I always wanted to be an every down back. And now the NFL is, hey, they were bringing this third receiver, bring in a second tight end, and three tight ends. Then somebody's got to come out of the game. I'm like, Coach, I don't have to come out of the game. I could play these multiple positions. So if we go to two tight ends, I could be the second tight end. We go to three receivers, I could be the third receiver lined up in the slot. Yeah. And so me and Keith Jackson, we was that guy. So sometimes Keith Jackson will go line up in the slot, and I'll play tight end. Or we go to three tight ends, I'll be the third tight end. With two backs, I'll be the second back or the first back. I never had any ego about how many times I'm going to carry the football. All I was always concerned about from high school, college, and professional was about winning football games. That was the bottom line with me. I was never that selfish guy. Give me the ball, give me the ball. I never cried about carries. Didn't have to cry about carries at Ohio State. I got the ball a lot. But
yeah,
I wasn't about it. But my freshman year at Ohio State, I played fullback. It was about the team. We're like, well, I'm this hot shot running back coming here. I need X amount of carries. No, I want to see the team do well. So I was always a team first player. So it's not easy to say, well, because you got all the carries. No, I didn't. Even in high school, I didn't play running back till my junior year. The coach moved me to running back. I didn't want to play running back. I was like, I just want to just get me the ball because I was playing tight end prior to switching to running back as a junior in high school.
Yeah.
So it's always been about the team. So then when you got to the NFL, I caught the ball more than I carried it, but I didn't care. All I wanted to do was win. And that also cost me a lot of Pro Bowl nods, because they didn't put a fullback in the Pro Bowl until 1993.
Yeah.
That was my 8th year in the NFL.
And they kind of didn't know what to think of you, right?
They didn't know where to vote for me. They was like, Keith, you don't really have a position. You're clearly one of the best players in the league, especially, on your team and, on the NFC. They just didn't know where to vote for me. So a lot of Pro Bowls I didn't get voted to.
Yeah, it's really funny. You didn't really have a position, but you never left the field.
You never left the field, right.
You're just filling a hole out there,
Yeah, I'm out there with 1,200, 1,400, 1,300 yards, all-purpose yards with no Pro Bowl nod.
That's crazy. That is really crazy. That is really crazy. And number two, though, I really, you may disagree with me. I think the fact that you didn't turn into that, what they call that consummate just pound and, ground and pound running back in the NFL helped you stay in the NFL longer, don't you think? I mean, what do you, from maybe taking a pounding, you know what I'm talking about? I mean,
but it depends on, if I would have got drafted to Pittsburgh and they were going to give me the ball, 300 times a year, would that have cut down some years of my career? I don't know, possibly. But I don't think my career would have been any less.
Yeah, I got you.
Based on how many years you play.
Yeah.
A quality career is based on a quality career, not number of years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I mean, I was just talking about, a lot of running backs, back in the day, man. I mean, Earl Campbell, George Rogers, all those guys, even you, especially your junior year. Sure. My goodness. Archie Griffin, look how many carries he had, his last 3 years in college. And I really believe there's only, like beats of your heart. Some people think you only have so many heartbeats. I really believe you only have so many carries until there's a fall off. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that. And I
know what you're saying. I kind of agree with you, but the only part I disagree with is in today's game.
Yeah.
Today's game is less physical.
Yes.
And so I think that's a way of the NFL owners keeping the running backs pay low.
Yeah.
So he's taking too many hits. But he's not taking that. Come on. Pay, like when Ezekiel Elliott, they was talking about him. Like, Ezekiel's taking a lot of hits, but he's deserving. Give the man his money. You don't say that about quarterbacks. Their rotator cuff can be thrown out just as quickly. Look at Big Ben Roethlisberger. But they're giving him room to come back. What about he's thrown the ball awful lot of times in his 15-year career, however long he's been in the league.
Yes.
He's still, look at Tom Brady. His arm isn't throughout yet. The quarterbacks, their arms are fine. But the running back, they've taken too many hits. No.
Yeah. No, I just meant, I just remembered Jim Brown finally said, hey, I'm going out on top. You know what I mean? I'm going to, I know that once I've gotten to this part of the mountain, the next part is going to be tough. I don't want to leave here limping. I want to leave here, with a smile on my face,
Yeah, but Jim Brown, he was running to Hollywood. He was making more money in Hollywood than he was for the Browns.
That's true. He was starting with Raquel Welch, instead of a Paul Brown.
But let me see Jim Brown make that decision, making the money they're making today.
Oh, dude, he'd have played till he was 50.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
He'd own a team in the league by now. Hey, real quick, I want to get into that with you. The draft is coming up. It's going to be a remote draft and stuff, and it's going to be kind of like
it's not a remote draft. It used to be the draft. It's old school draft. Yeah, we don't need all the pomp and circumstance of going to Las Vegas and walking on the red carpet, and that's fine, but that's not the end of the world. What you're really concerned about is your favorite team getting the right guy on your team so you'll be succcul. Yeah. Who remembers where Tom Brady was on draft day when he was in New England? We don't care.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. All I'm concerned about, can you play for my team that I want to win? So I like the ideal. It's okay with the pomp and circumstance that, if they've had in years gone by. But if you have an at-home draft, so what? That's how it used to be anyway. It's not the end of the world. Hey, spend some time with your family, as long as you keep your social distance. But that's okay to have an at-home draft again. And then, you don't need to have 45, 50 people in the war room to make a decision on who you're going to draft in the 5th round.
Yeah.
Those decisions ought to be made, over the next 2 weeks, who you want in the 1st round, 2nd round. You got your draft board. You're picking 15 or 20 or whatever it is. You only can choose how many guys you projected in the 1st round.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have 30 guys drafted in the 1st round in your draft board. You probably only have, based on where you're picking at, anywhere between 5 and 10 guys.
Yes.
You're not even the Cincinnati Bengals. How many guys do they got on their draft board for the first pick of the draft?
Yeah.
Four guys. That's about it.
Cool. And they'll probably pick the wrong guy. No, I'm just joking.
Never know with them.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to, what was your impression of J.K. Dobbins, the way he bounced back from he thought it was a mediocre year the year before, 1,000-yard years, mediocre. And he sets the school record last year. But I didn't get to talk to you about this. But what did you think of J.K. and the way he played, and just what do you think his prospects are, so to speak, in this draft, et cetera?
Well, as an Ohio State Buckeye, he gives you what you asked for. All I want is all you got. And that's what J.K. did. J.K. gave you everything he had every time he got the football in his 3 years at Ohio State. He didn't leave anything on the field. Even that last game against Clemson, he left it all out there on the field. If he'd have been healthy in that Clemson game, I think he's going to break 1 or 2 more plays and Ohio State wins that game. So he's definitely, a Buckeye legend, one of the greatest running backs to ever play at Ohio State. And he gives you all I saw or text him after almost every game. I told him, hey, man, you have them 40, 60, 70-yard touchdown runs. I'm running every step with you. I'm tired. Can you get some rest tonight? So I was a huge J.K. Dobbins fan. So on the NFL part, I think he's a first-round draft pick. If you're drafting a running back in the 1st round, I don't know why he's not the first running back off the board. Yeah. And I've seen all the running backs in the draft, tremendous running backs, but I got to go with J.K. because J.K., everybody can run the ball. Can everybody block? Can everybody catch the ball? And I think J.K. Dobbins checks all those marks, similar. I'm not calling him Saquon Barkley, but like Saquon Barkley could block, he could run, and he can, catch the football. J.K. Dobbins is that kind of threat. And within the NFL draft, it's always who you get drafted to that can, feature your skills.
Right.
I think as long as he gets drafted to the right team, he's going to do fine in the NFL. Keith. Real fine. I really see him being somebody. like the New England Patriots. If he goes there, it would, they would feature all the things that he does well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Bill Belichick would love him because
Yes.
he's a no-nonsense dude. I mean, he's what I call
He's unselfish.
Yes. Yeah, but he wants the ball. But all you guys want the ball.
We all want the ball. First of all, you don't want the ball, I got a problem with you.
Yeah, exactly. No, Coach, not tonight.
Right.
Hey, Keith, how would you have fared in one of these modern day college spread offenses like Ohio State has run the last many years? People sometimes when you say stuff like I'm fixing to say, they think, "Oh, you're living in the past. You're an old guy." But I mean, the way you could get to the edge, for example, but then the way you ran through arm tackles, and that's the key now, man, because you spread a defense so wide.
Right.
It's just an arm tackle, jamboree out there, and you ran through arm tackles like it was like they were pixie sticks. And how do you think you would have fared in this kind of offense with a pretty good passing quarterback, to basically make it honest?
Oh, I think I would have been pretty good. But what I like about it, only thing I like everything about it, but my only drawback was I don't want to run read option. I want just make sure just give me the ball, and they do have that option in there where it's a give, but most of the time it's a 50-50 carry. It's an option, and I don't like that. Because they're going to take me to make sure they're going to make sure Tom Zach keeps the ball more so than me. So I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't mind you spread them out, but make sure you give me the football.
Hey, after that spring game in '84, Tom Zach didn't want that anymore either, did he?
No.
Wow, man.
He was looking at the picture.
Unbelievable. But I was going to say,
you can hit the quarterback in the spring.
break the quarterback's leg, no big deal. But you would have loved playing on Dwayne Haskins Jr.'s team, man. That's for sure.
Oh yes, because Dwayne's gonna give it up.
Dwayne's gonna give it up, exactly. Well, hey, man, boy, this has been great, Keith.
Right,
and
good.
Like I said,
This is my first time on a Zoom. This is different.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with it. This is cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I've had a great time, and I really appreciate you coming on. And I'm gonna have you on in the middle of the season next year too. But
sure,
because I mean, you just bring in linemen because you've got a couple of shows going yourself right now. What all do you have going on as far as media goes?
Well, I do it. Today's Monday, so I did my show today. The Keith Byars show every Mondays at on noon to 1, and usually before the COVID-19, I was doing the show on Sunday also, so that'll probably come back. And then after this is over with, I'm probably going to move to doing something 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
Really?
Yeah, probably my regular, probably be about 3 hours a day.
And then would that be local radio there in Dayton, or where are you?
Here in Dayton.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I mean, because, I've always enjoyed, as you can tell, I've always enjoyed talking with you, man.
Likewise, Tim. I like you because you're fair.
Yeah, but what I
appreciate
you because you tell it like it is, man. And that's what sets guys apart, and you know what I'm talking about. And we hardly ever get to see these players anymore. You used to see me. You guys, I used to hang out at the Woody Hayes Center it wasn't Woody Hayes.
It was a facility.
It was a facility back then. They didn't build the Woody Hayes yet. But
I'm still envious when I go back there. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
You guys, you supposed to throw your helmet on the field and win 10 games with all this facility you got here and your schedule.
And the water wall in the dressing room, the water wall.
I'll tell them we didn't play anybody in Ohio. The water. Awesome.
Unbelievable.
Awesome.
Unbelievable. Well, hey, Keith, I'll have you on again, man, if you'll do it. If you need me on your show, give me a call, brother. But I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. I'll hang on to it. I'll let you know.
All right. We'll be back just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. My buddy Austin Ward, and we'll be talking a little bit of Ohio State football. But, man, I really appreciate my friend Keith Byars coming on. Like I said, the most dominant college football season by a running back I ever saw, at least until that high ankle sprain. And even then, he was pretty damn good. Keith, thanks for coming on, my man.
Have a good one now. Thank you.
And just like I promised, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with my good friend Boston. You know him as Austin Ward. Boston, glad to see you. Glad to see you're keeping your social distancing. You're quarantining in place. How's that quarantine going, my man?
We made it through another week, so hanging in there the best we can. Saw that you actually got to see your grandson, so a little variety for you. I'm sure that made your day and brightened up your quarantine as well. But we're trying to to survive this the best we can, and so far so good.
Well, the only rule I'm breaking is my wife and I are babysitting our grandson Owen right now. We babysat him all last week, and going to babysit him next couple of weeks because my son and his wife both are working at home. And you remember back when Liberty was one and a half, and not as old as she is now, and knows everything now, I'm sure. But man, you got to watch. There's no way you can have a 1.3-month-old kid running around. I'm talking about 1 year, 3 months running around and do your job at the same time. It's impossible.
Yeah, we used to. I remember back like before Liberty was even born. Allie and I were talking about it. Like, gosh, I mean, daycare is expensive, and you work from home. Like, what if we could do 2 days of daycare or 3 days of daycare? Like, don't you think you could watch her? Like, even when she was 3 months old, and it was just the weekend, I was like, I'm sure glad that we didn't try to do that, because there's no way I can get the work done even before she could walk, before she started talking. And now, especially with us both working from home currently in this situation, two journalists, trying to get through the day. And she does like Disney Plus, and she will watch movies, but she's starting to, fight back a little bit at 2.5. And I think right now she's sitting out there, she refusing to wear clothes and begging for popsicles. So it's been, that part has been a test as we all try to, make sacrifices and work. Like, you try to remember the bright side that we're getting bonus family time, but we also now remember what we were paying for at daycare.
Yeah, and the other thing you do is you end up working. There's going to be a 2.5, 3 hour window probably that's going to work for you, and that's when you got to get it done. Right? Like this podcast.
And
like
I'm not used to doing that.
Yeah, but that's like with interviewing Representative Anthony Gonzalez. There was that little window, and you had to get it done, right?
2:00, you got 20 minutes. Liberty was fighting that nap time a little bit just to peek really behind the curtain today, but we got it done. Like, it's not like I was going to be able to say, hey, while you're helping push through stimulus bills there in D.C., Gonzo, I need to just give me a minute. Like, I can reschedule with you for 15 minutes, and we understand personal life, but he's on a different schedule than us.
Yeah. I was going to say, by the way, and you're just now encountering it before we move on and actually talk about some Ohio State football. The most empowering moment of a young kid's life is when he or she understands that they can say no, because no becomes it's like a contrarian. No becomes their default, and you will put up with that for like several months, perhaps even a year, and then when they become a teenager, it'll start all over again. But enjoy it before the no's really come in rapid succession, my man.
We're deep into trying to get it away right now. Yeah, it's the no's are worn out, and I don't know if this works this way for everybody, but we went through like 2 years where we didn't need to, have timeouts or raise our voice, and everything was great. Like, we got the best behaved kid in the world. Like, we're never going to have anything. And then all of a sudden one day the no factory opened for business, and it is cranking them out right now.
And you know why? Because the no is when they realize they're going to get a reaction from you on your face and everything else that tells that they really enjoy it, because it means you're actually paying attention to them, that they have some power. And that's literally what it's all about. Absolute, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. You understand how that goes. But anyway, hey, who do you think is the most antsy of the Ohio State coaching staff and support staff right now? I'm going to give you my answer first. I think it's Mickey Marotti, because really, what are these guys doing? I mean, we're trying to keep tabs on it as much as we can. We can't see them every day, can't see them at all, except perhaps like we're doing through Zoom or Skype or something like that, FaceTime. But do you think – I think that's where the edge is going to have to be redrawn or rehoned more than anything else, is from a physical standpoint. Once this novel coronavirus, COVID-19, once it's put back in its place and people can come out of their caves, that's what's going to have to be probably addressed more than anything else about the football team, right?
Yeah, I think you almost have to take Mickey Marotti like out of the conversation because like he's the strength coach. He's so important. It'd be like saying, you know, Ryan Day. Of course, those two people are worried about everything because they're the top of the pyramid. So I'll give you that one, and I'll just say we can leave that and dive into the rest of the team. And then if you went from there to the assistants and say, well, okay, who missed the most from spring? Who's going to have to make up the most time if they get it back in the summer, August, whatever. We don't know when it's going to be, but I think, you know, the guy that would stand out the most to me would probably be Kerry Combs, just because he wanted to get rolling so bad. He needed to get that spring to help figure out the pieces he had in the secondary. They were trying to replace those three starters. You know, his personality is such that I'm sure he's finding the bright side of the coaching remotely and, you know, firing off long hashtags and texting and being really, you know, hands-on remotely as much as he can. But they had so much to do in the secondary that I think that's a position, a unit, a particular coach who probably, you know, took this as a major negative. And Brian Hartline is probably in a similar circumstance with those four freshmen that enrolled early, you know, trying to get them up to speed because there was a really great chance that all four of them could have been in the mix. At least three of them were going to be in the top six in all likelihood. And you want to make sure that you have the pieces to complement Justin Fields. So, you know, if we named anybody, like they all have things that they wanted to get done in spring and wanted back. But I think probably the greatest sense of urgency aside from Marotti and Day probably would have been with Kerry Combs.
Yeah. I mean, it's you know, boy, they really flipped things last year defensively. And, you know, when we were talking to some of the players there before, you know, the social distancing and everything else, quarantine popped into play, et cetera, you know, they're you know, Kerry was making some slight tweaks, it sounded like, to the defense, or bringing some slight tweaks to the defense. Although, you know, as Ryan Day said, they're still going to play that one high safety look for the most part. But, you know, Sean Wade, the lone returning starter from that group, and, you know, even he seemed like he was going to be limited a little bit as the spring went on. So it was going to really be a showcase for these guys like Sevyn Banks, you know, and Tyreek Johnson and Cam Brown, if Cam Brown got a little more healthy. You know, of course, the silver lining there is some of these guys who are having to sit out the spring, by the time this thing recranks, and who knows when it recranks, because like I told you, I've speculated that once they do, they're going to give them an extra week or two in preseason camp to get the wheels greased up again from a football standpoint, because everybody lost a substantial part of their spring drills, some teams more than others. But, you know, they're going to have 5 or 6 weeks, I think, to get things going before they actually play a game, whether that's in September, October, or November. But still, you know, you'd like to have a feel for that before you go into preseason camp about all those guys were going to fit, right?
Yeah, I think that's if you get the best case scenario, and that's that bonus time before they play, that might work in favor of Sean Wade. That might work in favor of Josh Proctor, who was going to miss all of spring, being limited with what I was told was a shoulder sort of cleanup injury surgery after last season. You know, Cam Brown wasn't out there for the first week of practice. He wanted to be out there, obviously competing to be a starting, you know, cornerback. So you had a handful of these guys. You know, Chris Olave wasn't taking part of that first practice that we were out there watching. Getting them back, maybe a mini camp sort of situation before a training camp, if the best case scenario comes out to be. Maybe that works out better for Ohio State and raises the ceiling. Of course, the trade-off is that, you know, they're not in there doing workouts with Mickey Marotti right now or in May, and those are going to be basically impossible to recoup at the level that they would have got without any of this shutdown. But, you know, I think they can't just show up in August and then go play in September as planned. Like, that's just not going to work. It's not fair. The level of play would be too sloppy, potentially dangerous. So, yeah, I think you're right. Like, there's going to be a different amount of time. And if it's 2 weeks, if it's 3 weeks, maybe that happens in July. You and I have said this week after week, we don't know. But if you're looking at, you know, a way that impacts Ohio State that it could spin into a silver lining and positive, that might make it easier for them. If they would have given the option of 3 extra weeks, then go into training camp or spring ball, and then the layoff, and then training camp, I think they probably, especially knowing, you know, Ryan Day's experience in the NFL, Kerry Combs' experience in the NFL, Heartline, et cetera, they probably prefer that NFL model. And maybe this is something that prompts some change down the road. Maybe this would be the way it goes permanently.
Yeah, and just have and like I brought that up with Day, I think it was, or it might have been Urban Meyer at one point. I said, would you prefer to have a week or two of OTA kind of stuff, through the year, and they're allowed to work with them a little bit more. The actual coaches are now than they used to be, in certain drills at certain times during the season, other than spring or preseason camp. But not like I'm talking about, and it seems like that would help everybody, make it a little bit more like the NFL model. That might be something they might want to look at down the road, like you're talking about. I agree 100%. And, they kind of poo-pooed that idea for whatever reason, because I think they like the idea of 4 weeks of spring, 3.5 practices a week. Obviously, you got to get 15 in. That's why I said 3.5. They don't just have a half practice and go home. But you follow my drift there. And I think that would work. I think they're going to get to that eventually, because they work with these guys all year anyway from a conditioning standpoint. And so this may hasten that. Who knows? I mean, this is so crazy, though, because we're sitting here and we're talking about things we have no idea until the all clear horn sounds. And even then, there are going to be warnings and cautions and guidelines about the way people should go about their business. Like I said, what sets football apart from every other sport, with the exception of probably rugby, is guys run into each other on every play. They tackle each other, they grab each other. There's physical contact on every play, usually even in practice, and that's what that could be the last stand for COVID-19, if you follow my drift.
Yeah, I think that's why we've talked maybe a week or two ago about why I don't believe that they would play games in the horseshoe with an empty horseshoe, not fans. I think,
right,
given the demands of football that you just talked about physically and the size of the rosters, you can't do it. I mean, you're dealing with 85 scholarship players, but 100, plus on a roster. Half of them are going to have to be traveling from somewhere else in the country and bringing all of their support staff. And, that's a huge number of people that could potentially, be asymptomatic and carrying the disease and be actually positive. All that stuff is, I still am trying to learn, like everybody, the best I can, but that's not my background to talk about what disease transmission. But
right.
To me, and based on the conversations I've had, that's the big risk is, and why you can't really do it.
Correct.
Why you're not having gatherings, and why they were initially limiting it to 100, then 50, then 10, or whatever, and down to staying at home, is to limit the exposure to that. And football is a game of exposure. You are constantly at physical risk, especially before you even add in the risk of a disease. So that part of it, I think, is clearly a huge hurdle, why you're probably going to need a vaccine before you get back to work. And I don't know, some days I'm more optimistic than others. It depends on which Monday maybe you're getting me for the podcast about when exactly it happens. All I feel confident in saying is that, and I wrote about this on Monday on Lettermen Row, that
right,
they're going to have to do what they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that football is played. And if that means that you have to wait until January and then have a buildup of November and December or what, I don't know what it's going to look like, but if you don't have football, you can't have any other sport on a college campus, just because you wouldn't be able to financially afford it. And
right,
it's such that $210 million budget that Ohio State has, it's coming almost exclusively from football. Men's basketball basically pays for itself, and football pays for everything else. That's the way it's been explained to me. So, the number one hurdle that we're talking about here is, when is football going to be played? Because nothing else on campus, and this sounds dismissive of the academic side, but you almost can't do anything if you don't have football, because it just paves the way, and it tells you everything that you need to know about getting admissions and getting people to come to campus, is that football is the economic driver. So I'm lost when people are like, oh, an empty stadium will be it, and they'll play it. Well, they can't just give up the $100 million from ticket sales and concessions. Like, that's also that would be a significant blow to letting any of the other 35 sports play. If you don't have football, like, you just have to have it. And if you don't, then we're going to be having completely different conversations about our country.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what conversations are had here in the next several months because, obviously Ryan Day just got a really nice contract extension and raise. All these coaches got raises, and will they have to readdress some of that? We'll see. The other thing, like I talked about a couple of weeks ago, though, the flip side of all this, if you want to call it the rosy side, is, dude, we could be in, if things do kind of like settle down a little quicker than maybe some people think, we could be in for a hell of a fall and winter when the NHL tries to get its 2020 playoffs in, the NBA tries to get its 2020 playoffs in, college football tries to crank up and play at least some semblance of a schedule headed to a college football playoff. The NFL does its thing. Baseball tries to figure out what it's going to do. The Masters is now, they're talking about a November date for the Masters after a PGA championship in August and a U.S. Open in September. I mean, in auto racing, which, I have my At Speed podcast with Mike Shank, and I was talking about this with him the other day on that. The latest podcast is that, you could have everybody going for broke. And the interesting thing there then would be, well, where do the networks, where do they start drawing the line and going, well, wait a minute, this is more important than that. We're going to show this instead of that. You're going to be on tape delay. I mean, you talk about a
24 hours of sports.
Oh my God! You talk about a hootenanny. That's exactly what this is going to be, and I think that would be the true definition if you looked it up in the dictionary of a hootenanny is too many sports to broadcast at the same time. But it could be crazy, right?
Yeah, the first thing I did when the Masters picking that or tentatively scheduling for that November 9th to 15th week, the first thing I did, which week is that for Ohio State's schedule?
Yeah.
At Maryland. Oh, what is that going to be? How am I going to travel on Friday and Sunday? Am I going to miss Sunday at Augusta? I can't possibly have that.
No.
And then who knows what that means for, Blue Jackets games or MLS that didn't make it into your list way down for the poor Columbus Crew. But I mean, that's I think what is getting me by right now is looking for the dates that's rescheduled. And I had a buddy text me that this morning, like, how amazing could this be if we get everything in the fall all at once? Like, maybe that's what brings us back out, and we paid for it for 2 months and we were all miserable. Maybe that brings some of the joy back, just a nonstop sports extravaganza to make up for the time that we lost. That's sort of what's filling me with a little bit of hope, and we've all got to have that. And you and I, who've devoted our entire lives to covering sports and being part of the sports world, like, that would be the most amazing time ever to be alive.
The word you're looking for there that you were grasping for is insane. It would be insane. And, and like I said, people would have to make choices on what they want to watch. And heck, you may see the Big Ten go the MAC route and play games on Tuesday and Wednesday, I mean,
if Rutgers plays Illinois on a Tuesday night, I'm there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I bet you are, man. Yeah. Don't count on me. I'll be watching it at home. But yeah, that's what we're talking about right now, and believe me, the administrators know that. Yeah. Their lifeblood will be television in this thing. Maybe obviously the NHL and the NBA are trying to figure out, I think, how to do that and still get some revenue from the television side, whether or not they have fans in the stands or not. But then you got to have advertisers for the television. A lot of businesses are taking it on the chin right now, so it's. Just because it'll be there and it can be televised doesn't mean you're going to be able to get that that money back, so to speak. Because I think the economy is going to come back fast once it does, but it's still not going to be snap with a finger fast.
And I think you raise a good point about the NHL and NBA and some of the wild ideas that have been floated around. The NBA playing in Vegas, NHL going to North Dakota. Which also a very low number of cases in my home state of Wyoming, if people want to consider that as well. We don't have a ton of ice rinks there, but enough maybe for the Blue Jackets to set up in Casper. And I'll head out there and I'll volunteer to cover the team for a while. It's easier for the professional leagues because they have these grown men and their own unique contracts, and they can make their decisions that are independent. Whereas a university trying to deal with are you going to have a football game? If let's just say for hypothetical that Ohio State goes online only into the fall, that they just want to be proactive, like, well, then you're dealing with another set of circumstances. Do all the football players have to sign waivers? Do they have to get exemptions to be allowed on campus? Like, they play by a different set of rules that are understandably so, because it's a place of education, and in a lot of cases you're talking about state-owned, state-operated universities. They're not going to all have the same rules. Even within the Big Ten, in Northwestern Ohio State's rules would be different. So that's a huge hurdle, and we don't know how any of that stuff's going to play out. But I think that's one reason. Like, every week, you and I, whenever we talk together or go out with our friends, or talk to our friends, not go out, sorry, or go on a radio show, say, what do you think is going to happen? Like, there's 1,000 things that are going to impact that, probably even more. And there's just no way for us to know what it's going to be at this point. Like, we have to take a page out of Ryan Day's playbook and win that moment, because you stay home and take care of business, because every day that there's a setback or another complicating factor, it makes it harder for there to be football at all. And none of us want that.
Think how maddening this is for a football coach right now, because they are so detail-oriented. They're so schedule-oriented. I mean, Ohio State's got that clock ticking down, to the kickoff of the Michigan game, this year. The perpetual clock there that resets every last Saturday in November. I mean, these guys aren't used to, like, I had Liam McCullough on last week, and I wish people would listen to that podcast, because when we got into near the end there, when we were talking about how he was impressed, because obviously his brother Roan is still on the football team, and how impressed he was with the way Ryan Day and his staff have gone about their business of organizing, and keeping people on their P's and Q's and things. But they're all working toward an end, and they don't know where the beginning of that end is going to be yet. And if they do know, they've got to stay in some semblance of shape. They do know they've got to stay in some semblance of mental acuity, of getting ready for whenever they are given the green light. But it's so strange, because it's like a 2-minute drill, but the goal line just keeps moving farther and farther away instead of the other way around. Yeah. And it's just got to be so odd for them. But, and it is sports, and I understand that. And but we care about sports. Sports, we've already been through that in a couple of these podcasts about how important sports are to society, not just to have something to watch and to do, but just from a economic, financial sense, how much impact they have on the world now. The Premier League, they're looking at their players trying to take pay cuts and stuff, and those guys are balking, for example, over in England. And so everybody's dealing with this in their own way, but it's so maddening, because we have no clue when the end is going to come, or even the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I tried to, in my mind, and talking with the rest of our colleagues at Lettermen Row, it's like, well, hey, we can get through this because it's just 4 extra weeks of the off season, and that's I think an optimist way of looking at it, and that's the way we have to attack it, because until they actually cancel, or I don't think they will cancel or postpone or tweak the schedule, like, that's what it's going to be. And if that's what the situation winds up being, great. That's what we planned for, and it's not going to be easy. It's not what we wanted. It's not ideal, and we're going to have to, fight and scratch and claw to get through it. And hopefully Ohio State will help us with that, and continue to try and make coaches and players available to us when the opportunities arise, because that's a big part. They could probably survive without us, but we're also a pretty useful apparatus for them, and we rely on them for our business and helping keep the fans of their program informed.
Yeah.
But you can't just pull it out of thin air when you're talking about there being that end date. We're still working for it the way everybody else is, and it's not easy. So I get it. Like, I'm not trying to stay in the same shape that Justin Fields is, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything during the off season as well. And it's not easy, but that's why that's the situation that we're in. And we can't, if we just gave up, then there would be no Lettermen Row whenever he comes back.
Right now would be a good time for Ohio State, to trot like Justin Fields out and a few other players and maybe some coaches and, to kind of stir the pot a little bit. I mean, Justin Fields, he's the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, supposedly. Let's talk to him. What's he doing? How's he staying in shape? How's he keeping his arm going? How's he progressing from the mental side of the game, et cetera? And, just to kind of keep his name relevant out there. I mean, not that he's going to go away and stuff, but you're exactly right. I mean, it's kind of like beat the other people to the punch, so to speak. And we'll see if that starts happening. I got a feeling it will on down the road because, guys like Jerry Emig, the SID, and those guys, they've got to understand, I'm sure they're letting their players get through spring semester right now because it was the last couple of weeks of spring semester online. And these guys are also doing stuff online with the football team, as much as they can. So, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, I think they would be blowing a real opportunity here if they don't take advantage of it. Let me just put it that way.
And you and I are both aware that this is an unprecedented situation, and on the list of priorities, we're going to be down there. I completely understand that, but I think it's also important. And Ryan Day said this on the call with us whenever that was a week and a half ago, how important it is to try and maintain some of the sense of normalcy, and we understand this with our coverage. We're trying not to, write much about, the virus except when it comes up and things that they have to react to. But we're trying to write about the team as if everything will be on schedule. And, Spencer Holbrook is writing about, guys who had standout plays and what that could mean for the season when it comes back. And it is still an opportunity for us that we want to provide that outlet for the fans. And Ryan Day said that how much he appreciated that. And I think he has a good feel and understanding. I think you're right. In the next couple of weeks, they probably will take more opportunities to step up and talk and keep the public engaged and informed about that, because we can't do it just by ourselves. There's going to be a limit of what we can provide without having those interactions that we're used to. But at this point, I get it where it's taken 2 or 3 weeks and we're fumbling around in the darkness, because everybody is. Like, just because he's Justin Fields or because he's Ryan Day or Brian Hartline, they're no different. They're all of us are dealing with this for the first time, and there's no playbook. So I get it from that perspective. And I'm not trying to, strong arm anybody on the show. That's the situation and where we're at, and where hopefully we'll all be able to come together and make the best of that situation that way.
I think it's going to happen, my man, but that's why, I really appreciate like Keith Byars coming on with me today, man. We talked about the 1984 season in particular and how close he came to the Heisman Trophy that year and how disappointing it was when he didn't win it, and how he doesn't even pay attention to the Heisman anymore, except, he'll hear who won it and stuff. But, he lost it, of course, to Doug Flutie. But I've got another couple of other special guests lined up for the next couple of weeks and stuff where we'll get into some things. And, you're doing a good job with some of these former players and stuff too, like Jonah Jackson and some of these guys, just, as they get ready for the draft. And, like I said, you got Representative Anthony Gonzalez on your own this week talking about things and how they're dealing with the challenge out there in Congress land. But you know what? We're going to be back next week and with another one of these Tim May podcasts. Boston, I mean, we can still talk of football, man. We can get into some X's and O's as things goes on. Huh?
We will. I think next week we should just vow to never say the word coronavirus or COVID-19 or any kind of pandemic talk. Let's just make a pledge right now, and we'll pull it off.
Well, what I did already, I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't call it that other name because I got admonished by a lady who listened to me call it something else last week. But, as I like to say, where it originated. And I guess, people get all upset about that. I don't really care, but I'm not gonna like throw gasoline on a fire, if you follow my drift.
Right.
But we all know where it came from. I'll leave it at that. But you know what? Until next week, this is Tim May with my good buddy Boston. You know him as Austin Ward, the Tim May Podcast. We'll see you then.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Letterman Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and you know we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.